And you can't resist, can you?
I mean, it's just this is too good. Like we're talking about gratitude and wives being gratitude, having gratitude for a husband, and she can get if she's thankful and grateful, she can get so much stuff,
Oh
so
yeah,
much stuff. And a
they're like,
husband in the reverse also as well. Like if he's
that's right.
expecting things from her, like 41 years of marriage, and I still don't expect that my wife fix dinner, like or meals for me. I just don't. I am thankful for every meal she ever makes. It doesn't matter what kind of meal. I am grateful and thankful that she does it. She goes ahead and cuts me fruit and has for, I don't know, a year, 2 years. She cuts me fruit every morning for my breakfast. And I am so thankful for that. I don't tell her every day. I don't tell her a lot actually, but it's so cool. And it's the thought that it's saving me time.
What would she do if one morning you wake up and you're in a hurry and you look over there and say, "Where's my fruit?" How would she
Right,
feel?
right, right. Like that will never happen. There's a few times that, it hasn't been, there's no big deal. Like I'm not expecting that to happen. She is like, I'm sorry. It's like, no, honey, it's fine. It's not a big deal. Like missing it every once in a while helps me to go ahead and appreciate when it's there. But
Right.
I think a lot of husbands are just stupid. They're just stupid. They expect things from their wives, and it doesn't make it fun. If you look at
Yeah.
intimacy, like that's a good example. You expect intimacy from your wife. She has, especially if she has little kids, she's exhausted. She's got all this pressure, all this other stuff. You expect it from her. That takes a lot of energy. But if you're grateful, it takes a lot less energy because you're grateful for it. And so,
Yeah. Think about how that looks and feels from a woman's. Here's what I'm going to say, Mark. The truth is, women know how this feels on their side of it. They all know. Gee, woman, where's my dinner? I've been working so hard, so long, all day to put the food on the table and to provide a roof over your head. Why don't you have dinner for me? How does a woman feel about
right,
that?
right,
I know how she feels. She has every right to feel that way. Or, hey, I'm putting you up. I'm taking care of you. So, I want some sex. Okay. How does a woman feel like that about that? You know,
right,
and so the whole point is they know from their side of it how that feels. I'm not quite sure how it is that women can't seem to reverse that around and say, oh, gee, you know, that's how I feel when that is expressed to me. Why does my husband feel the same way when I do it to him? I don't understand that. But
right.
I feel like there's a
Right. I
very
can tell you
definite.
why that is because none of the women tell the other women because most husbands don't communicate. They live in silence. They've tried it multiple times. It doesn't ever work. So why even try it? Because then it gets flipped over. And at the churches and the pastors will say openly, if mama's not happy, nobody's happy. It's like, really? That is such a degrading thing to say to women, but they say it, all the women giggle, and it's like, really, that's the kind of example. Like you
Where
are this, it's just crazy. Now take this into the holidays. Like, what if you hypothetically had a husband that, he served his family, his kids for 37 years?
right,
Why is he going to the holidays? There's just going to be, like, if he has no fun, like, it's not fun. It's a burden, it's a pain because nobody's willing to go ahead and be honest. It's just stupid. But he continues to go. What if he had a dad that opted out? Like his dad would just not show up for holidays. Why? Because he's depressed.
yeah,
Well, why can't he use that same example? Like, why doesn't he do the same thing? Like, why is it that he's been there? And so I think for a woman, it's not only that she needs to be grateful, she needs to teach the lazy ass kids, even if they're adults. Like, are you kidding? Do you know how much hell it's be to be around you? You
Well,
self-centered, self-absorbed, narcissistic. Do you have any idea how much that hurts your dad? Do you have any idea what's going on? Do you have any idea someday he's not going to be here? Do you have any idea that he doesn't have to show up?
right. So here's what I would say, Mark. I think that the reason that that doesn't happen is because, and I have said this, I think that in the modern day church, the great disappointment that I have is that older women fail to teach the younger women, wait a minute, ladies. Wait a minute. Guys are not complicated. They're not complicated. If you want something out of them, there's a way to get it, and it doesn't cost you anything. Nothing. Why does a woman not say that? Why do older women not teach their younger women
Because
that?
the older women don't know. They
Yeah, there you
don't
go.
know. They're clueless because their moms never taught them and the church never taught them. Nobody ever taught them that. And so what they do is they care more about the kids than their husband. And then they wonder why the husband doesn't want to go because he doesn't have to. He's got so many things on his plate. You know what? He could enjoy it. I mean, I remember once it was probably the best Thanksgiving ever. And my wife went ahead and said, "What do you want to do on Thanksgiving?" I said, "I just want to do the excavator. I don't want to be around the stupid, self-centered, narcissistic adult children that, they're not happy. They're not thankful. They're just, it's just," and she says, "That's what you want to do is you just want to spend the whole day Thanksgiving just, on the excavator." I said, "I do." She says, "Okay." That was like the best Thanksgiving ever.
Yeah. So there you go. You see how that goes? I just find that all of that interesting. But what I really, really, really want to know is my experience that women cannot hear this. And
No.
I want to know why. Why can't they hear it when it seems so dang logical to me?
Elaine, educate Patrick and I, please.
Some may not want to hear it. I don't know.
Why?
Well, then they have control, or they think they do.
Control of what?
Just anything in general.
So, Elaine, are you married?
I am. I've got 5 kids, Patrick.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, in this day and age, that doesn't necessarily mean does the other. Okay. I mean, so, so here's my point is I'm just kind of like thinking about other things, so I'm not engaging other parts. But here's my question to you. Do you find yourself on occasion demanding things of your husband rather than just asking him?
No, because that's not how I was taught.
Okay. So clearly you were taught well, and my bet is that you have a husband that is more than happy to do and strive to please you. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe he needs a little training. I don't know. But or
This is
maybe
what I was talking about, Patrick. This is what I was talking about with the different personalities. See, I think the driver personality is on it. Like they are on it. If they're the husband, they're on it. If they're a wife who's a driver, they're on it. They're on it because they understand tasks. Go ahead and, you don't get tasks done, people aren't happy. And I think the amiable personality, everybody in the world thinks they're nice. They're not. They're mean, nasty little buggers. They just are. And so, but they're nice to everybody besides their spouse. So everybody treats them really nice. And they're always the victim. They're always the one that, if they're the wife, it's like dad picks on you, dad's this, and he's helpless. He is absolutely defenseless because what you said in previous, like the woman's got control. She feeds them, clothes them. She does everything for them. She buys stuff for them. If they're nice to her, she'll go ahead and get what they want.
Really? How that is extremely interesting to me. I really have to think about that. You're suggesting it's not gender oriented, it's more of a personality orientation.
Big time. Now, the reason you think it's gender is because 75% of men are going to be drivers, only 25% of women. 75% of women are going to be amiables, and only 25% of men. So there's, you can take that up with God on why that is. But I think, yeah, I think it is. Now you will have a situation, where a woman could be an amiable, wife, and the husband won't step up, and she has to step into the driver role because the household has to get things done. There has to be things. But the husband, he's the goofball. He's the one that wants to go ahead and have the kids like him. So what he does is he goes ahead and buys love. He's one more child.
Right.
So I think
I've
it's
seen that.
personality based. And I think the amiable is, it's easy for the amiable to go ahead and take advantage of other people. They think everybody's taking advantage of them, but they're the ones that take advantage of other people. So they're nice to everybody besides their spouse. I know one guy, he's had issues for decades because his wife is nicer to the, phone telemarketer than she is to him. Like really?
Now that is kind of interesting. So I'm gonna have to think about that, because that is a really good kind of, check, a little bit, because what happens is one of the normal biases, we have kind of like what do you call that? There's one of the biases where you think that everybody else thinks the same way you do, and that simply is not true. It's a fallacy. And so I'm thinking my experience tells me this, and I tend to think it's gender driven. I just tend to think that it is gender driven. I still have this feeling and belief that something very, very deep down is driving the lack of, on both sides. It could be on both sides, both genders, but there's something deep down driving the real issues, because it would be illogical if you tell a woman, and let's say you tell every 15-year-old girl growing up and say, okay, when you get married, just a couple of things you need to know that are actually pretty simple. They're simple in concept, and you practice them, and you'll get a husband that adores you, and you'll get the things done that you want done, and here's what you do, and make sure you don't do these things. And if you can do that, you're going to find life's a lot easier. I would think that would be.
This is what's fascinating, Patrick. This is what's fascinating, because Elaine is a analytic driver.
Okay.
And Nora is a double analytic with a driver and expressive secondary. So both of them resonate with everything you and I say. They're like, that sounds like me. Like they can connect with you and I, and they're like, that sounds like me. So what it is, the advice that you're giving to women, 75% of the women out there, if they took the advice, it would work for them in their marriage, but they can't hear it. The ones the ones who can hear it, they're already doing it, and they feel discouraged because they're like, I'm doing all of that and it's not working in my marriage. And the reason it's not working is the roles are reversed. They have more of a masculine tendency. So what's stereotypical masculine, they have that, and their husbands will have more of a feminine feminine. So the opposite happens. And so they resonate with you and I, and they're like, that's exactly how I feel in my marriage towards my husband.
So let me ask you this. I think it's a good thing to think about and prepare for one of these podcasts, which now gets me kind of really interested, is the basic question is, for the 25% of the women who completely get it.
Yep.
Who completely get it.
Yep.
And out of those, they're going to have a certain number of deadheads, men, husbands, who somehow don't themselves respond rationally or reasonably.
Right.
Okay. What can they do? What will work for them? All right. And I want to know the other side. What works for the 75% of the women who can't hear what I'm trying to say? Okay. Right. What works for them? Because that is I think that's worth pursuing.
So I think the answer is simple, but it's hard. The answer is simple is what you do is you bring in people like Elaine and Nora into lives like you and me, and they teach the women in our lives, like, it's not that hard. Your husband's not that complicated. You do this and this, and he will. So it needs to come from a woman.
Oh, very good. So you think that the 75% will listen to the 25%?
Well,
Yeah,
they have a better chance than listening to you and I.
No question. So
when
that's
when they see these women getting things from you and I, they're like, dang, like, dang, how do these women get what they want from my husband? I can't even get what I want from my husband, but these women get what I want.
Right. Now, the other side of that is what do the 25% of the men who are, I don't know, deadheads, do they get anything from the men? I think they would if they were surrounded by that men. If 75% of the women or men were telling the 25%, hey, when you are fortunate enough to have a wife who actually is grateful and respectful to you, then your job is to do this, 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 and this for sure. So would they listen?
Well, this is where it's complicated because
we need to find one. We need to find one and ask them on the podcast.
Like my experience is those men, they won't listen.
That's mine too.
They won't join a podcast. They just won't listen. They're locked in what they do, and they think their wife. So they will see a friend, they will see a father, and they'll be like, my wife loves her dad more than me. No, her dad's just nicer to her. Like, it's not complicated. Or you can have a friend that comes in, you could come in and you're nicer. That guy's wife will do more for you than does for her husband. And
okay, so second best, we know that the guys won't show up to the podcast. We know that. We're talking about that 25%.
Right
now. All right. So let's say that most young men right now don't know, but if they're the part of the 75%, they'll actually listen if they're actually given the information, right? I mean, if you teach them, they'll like, oh, well, because they didn't learn it anywhere, because you don't learn it at church, and you don't learn it at school, and you don't learn it, at the workplace. So maybe there's a pretty good excuse for why most men right now are having a hard time, because they're just not taught anything, just like the women are. But here's the next best thing. Find the women who are married to the deadheads, although you can't tell them that because it'll make them a little defensive. But then you sit down and you have them show up on the podcast.
Right. There's
Come on. I think it sounds like a great.
There was once a marriage counseling situation, and they came into my office, and I just do volunteer work, and the husband's like, my wife is and she's sitting right in front of me. She's sitting right in front of me. Husband's right beside, and his wife goes, and he says, my wife is very cold, meaning intimately, she's not interested in him. She's just not. And I could tell she was not cold. She was not a cold woman. And so I looked at her, looked at him, and said, really? And he's like, yeah, she's cold. She's not warm. I said, would you like me to show you right here, right now in front of you how warm she is? And he looked at me and he's like, sure. And I looked at her and I said, would you like me to show you in front of your husband how warm you are? And she's like, sure. And I never physically touched her. I just emotionally went ahead and connected with her, and she just melted. I mean, just melted. And it's like, dude, it's not that complicated. And so it's almost like you find men that can go ahead and move their wives and say, dude, like, buddy, your wife is in so much risk because you don't understand how it works, my friend. This, you come in with entitlement. You work 8, 10 hours a day. You work 12-hour days, whatever you work. You know what? You have no idea of what it's like to go ahead and be with children all day. Like they have no compassion, no gratefulness, no thankfulness. They think that their wife is the mom, and often the issue is the mom. The issue went ahead. She had an emotional affair with him as a child, as a teenager, as a boy, and she tells him all of these things on how amazing of a husband and a dad he is, and he sucks. And he buys into his mom's stuff. It's just stupid.
All right. Well, anyway, do you realize that we went for like another 45 minutes?
I do. You kept going. I'm like, this is good stuff.
All right. Well, anyway, you did get my interest, but I do
All
have
right.
to get to
Yeah.
work.
We'll see ya. Bye.
All right. See ya. Bye. Okay.